Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Fintech Fix, your weekly news roundup where I, Doug McKenzie, cover the hottest news in fintech that's been going on this week. Now, we haven't been able to film for the last couple of weeks, but one piece of news that you may not have noticed is the fact that Lockdown 2 Boogaloo is hitting theatres from most countries near you. And like most sequels, I have a feeling this one is going to be longer and worse than the first. But if we can cue a Rocky montage, we're going to get over it. We're going to get bigger, we're going to get better, and we're going to fight it because we're going to change the way that we work and we're going to change the way that we look at saving the world. And as a result, I've brought in two stories that really highlight that. So first up was actually a news story that harks back to Lockdown 1 when we were talking about the Barclay CEO discussing the fact that he puts all his CEOs in a giant metal tower in the middle of the Isle of Dogs. That's crazy talk nowadays, and as a result we need to really have a discussion about how we're going to work from home for a very long time now. And UniCredit, the Italian banking giant, has just gone and done that. In fact, they've gone and spoken with the representatives of all their employees. And this is absolutely brilliant news. It still looks like they've had a bit of back and forth about what the perfect amount is, and they've come to the decision, 60-40. Now, I find that a little bit crazy because currently in Italy, there's already massive fines for going out and about, even in the open, without a mask on. So what's it going to be like working in an office when everyone's wearing a mask? We're probably going to get used to it, to be honest, but 60-40 seems on a slightly unusual side, with 60% being in the office, 40% working from home. But it looks like it's straddling that proper limit where people can action work with their colleagues, get on, meet their colleagues face-to-face, but also get on with the work at home when they need to. Now, back in old Blighty, Barclays sent their employees home way back in September. Bonkers! But it does show that different banks are taking very different strategies with this, and I think different countries will too. So kudos to Barclays and UniCredit for actioning what is clearly quite an important decision to make. Next up is the news that green search engine Ecosia are actually partnering with a bank. What? That is not something that green things do. But hold your horses.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
And that's because they're not actually partnering with a bank. They're partnering with a payment company called TreeCard, which offer a debit card, all the usual things, except this debit card is actually made of trees, otherwise known as wood. Rather than plastic. And as a result of partnering with this, you can now, every time you spend $60 or more on one of these cards, that's another plant or a tree planted in an area that's under threat from desertification. So kudos to TreeCard, kudos to Ecosia, keep going. It looks like you're really going to use finance to finally change the world for good. Now that's all we've got time for in this week's episode of the Fintech Fix. Thank you so much for joining me this week, and I hope you all have a great weekend. I hope the lockdown doesn't get you down too much, and I hope these stories really actually shine a bit of light on what the future might look like. So here's to working from home half the time and paying with a wooden card. I'll see you next week. Ciao.